Hi, ministry leaders. It is a critical time for fundraising. We are in fourth quarter, and I know you are feeling the pressure. I also know that you are feeling the tension between over communicating and under communicating, ensuring that you're articulating clearly the needs that you have with your ministry investors or ministry partners. So I'm going to record a series of what I consider to be key tips in differentiating your ministry in the minds of your donors. So here's what we know. Fourth quarter is not only a critical time, but it is also a very noisy time in the nonprofit fundraising space. I know for me, as a donor to several different organizations, it is a time where I hear more than I do the rest of the year. So it's important that you know how you can be heard. Not just communicate, but ensure that your donor is receiving the message that you're sending. So let's begin with the top tip, and probably the most obvious tip is that you need to make a connection with your donors. Now, there are lots of ways to do this, and this is where you can differentiate yourself. The first one is to pick up the phone. I think a lot of times we rely on email because it is easy, and quite frankly, that personal connection over the phone, even if it is a voicemail, is a really differentiating way to communicate because people are not calling their donors. Now, you need to tier your donors when you're making these calls. Certainly, you want to reach out and make a personal connection with your most valuable, most invested donors first, but there's no reason to stop there. So continue to make connections. Perhaps you ask volunteers to do that or other staff people, but tier your donor list, divide them up, and make that connection. The other piece, thank them. When you have them on the phone, make sure that you are telling them thank you, reminding them of the impact they're having, and asking them to continue to pray for your work and to partner with you. Second way to make that connection beyond the phone call is writing a handwritten note. I know I've said this before. I know that you know this, but are you doing it? Put that handwritten note out on your desk every evening before you leave, or perhaps every morning. Make that part of your morning startup routine. Write a note to a new donor, to a loyal donor, or to just a donor that you've made a connection with recently. Just reinforce that relationship. Reinforce the importance that they bring to the organization with their investment of resources. And then finally, my third tip after calling them, perhaps writing a handwritten note, is to ask if you can share their story. Now, some donors will be reluctant to do this, but it can really spur and motivate additional partnerships if you can leverage a donor's story. Everyone has a story to share. Listen to your donor's story. Why do they give to you as a ministry? Where does their passion come from? Ask them to share their story. Perhaps it's in a short snippet video, perhaps it's in written form, but share that story with other donors that it might inspire and spur others to join you in your work. So there you go. There is your communication tip number 1 of how to differentiate yourself. Make a connection with your donors. Call them, write handwritten notes, and ask permission to share their story. Remember, your objective here is to differentiate yourself as a ministry so your message will be heard. Stay tuned. I'll be sharing more tips over the next few series of videos, all in an effort to ensure your donors are connecting with you.